Hey everybody, welcome back to Mr. Rowley's virtual music classroom. Today we're going to be learning about rhythm. This is the third lesson in music theory, and we're going to learn how to read rhythms and practice a little bit of reading rhythms so then you can also write them. We're going to start by talking about what you learned in the previous lessons. In lesson 1, you learned about the elements of music, and we learned that rhythm is how music travels through time. In lesson 2, we learned about the symbols of music and that rhythms use notes to tell us the duration of certain notes. So different kinds of notes teach us and tell us how long to hold a note and or a rest. So let's keep that in mind, that's what we're learning about today. We're going to learn exactly what those meanings are. In that second lesson, you saw what we call a note tree, where the whole note was at the top, and then we had 2 half notes, and then quarter notes, eighth notes, and 16th notes. In this lesson, we're going to apply all that to actual rhythm, which is the first basic parts of music. The main thing that I want you to understand, though, with this lesson, this is level 1, so we're only going to learn whole notes and whole rests, half notes and half rests, quarter notes and quarter rests, eighth notes and eighth rests, and 16th notes and 16th rests, and combinations within that. We are also going to learn that with this particular lesson, these are all with a time signature, has a 4 in the bottom of it. Remember, a time signature has 2 numbers, and remember, it's not a fraction. The top number tells us how many beats are in a measure, and the bottom number tells us which kind of note gets 1 beat or 1 count. If we change that number in the bottom, the note values are different. And we'll talk about that in future rhythm lessons when we are discussing, say, 6/8 time, 3/8 time, 9/8, 12/8, those kinds of things. And you can have even more complex time signatures, which again change note values. But for this lesson, this first lesson, we're only going to focus on whole notes, half notes, quarter notes, eighth notes, and 16th notes, and the rests that go with all of those. So let's get started. So what I'm going to teach now will be on the screen as you hear this. So the first kind of note that we're going to talk about is a whole note. A whole note gets 4 counts. Its counterpart in rest also gets 4 counts. A whole note would sound like this if this is the tempo. 1, 2, 3, 4. La. And of course the rest would be rest, 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 rest. I teach my students the Ed Sueda method. Now, Ed Sueda was a music publisher that created a beginning band method back in the 80s. When I first started teaching, that's the method I used. And he had a very unique and different way of teaching rhythm that actually helps with people who play wind instruments because he also taught a basic articulation at the same time. So a whole note for him, he would count like this. 2, woo, woo, woo. With the 2 being where you tongue if you're playing a wind instrument. In a traditional way, the way I learned back when I was a first beginning band kid, and where many people, and I would probably guess most people, learn what we call the traditional method, which is just using numbers and syllables. For the whole note, it's be 1, 2, 3, 4, because you hold up for all 4 counts. To demonstrate these later, I'm going to use a wind instrument. For everything else, I'm going to use a snare drum to show you and perform these rhythms. So again, whole note, 4 counts, whole rest, 4 counts, with what I call the vocalization method, the Ed Sueda method. 1, 2, here it is. 2, woo, 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 rest, 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 rest. For half notes, they get 2 counts. You can fit 2 half notes in the space of 1 whole note. Half notes would sound like this. 2, woo, rest, 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 rest. If we're using the traditional method, 1, 2, 3, 4, rest, 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 rest. Next would be quarter notes. Quarter notes get 1 count. Using the vocalization, 2, 2, 2, 2. Rests, rest, 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 rest. Using the counting method, 1, 2, 3, 4. rest, 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 rest. As we start getting a little more complicated, we're going to add eighth notes and eighth rests. As you can see on the screen, one eighth note has a single flag on it. The eighth rest looks like a little number 7 with a little, dot on the front of it. So a lot of my students will ask me, what's this? And because we don't see them very often in some of our music, but an eighth note rest is a very short rest. So at this tempo, 1, 2, 3, 4, the first measure that you see on the screen, ta, rest, ta, rest, ta, rest, ta, rest. Normally we see eighth notes combined. In the second measure that's on the screen, we see 2 eighth notes together with a beam in the first count, 2 eighth notes together with a beam on the second count, and then we see 4 eighth notes beamed together in the third and fourth counts. So that measure, we're ta, 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 with both measures put together. Ta, rest, ta, rest, ta, rest, ta, rest, ta, 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 ta. And finally, 16th notes. You can fit 4 16th notes into one beat because they get a quarter beat each. Back to eighth notes, eighth note gets half a beat. So you can fit 2 eighth notes into the space of 1 quarter note. So 2 eighth notes can be in one beat. 16th notes, 4 can be in one beat. 16th notes or 16th rests. The vocalization we use for 16th notes is T. So at this tempo, T rest, T rest, T, 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 T. That's what you see on the screen. Here it is again. Ready? And T rest, T rest, T, 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 T. That is the note tree in a audio form. Again, let's go back and look at it again. Whole notes. To, woo, 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 rest, 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 rest. Half notes and rests. To, woo, rest, 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 rest. Quarter notes. To, rest, 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 rest. Eighth notes. Ta rest, ta rest, ta rest, ta rest, ta 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 ta. And finally, 16th notes. T rest, T rest, T T T T. Again, T rest, T rest, T T T T. Okay, so that is an audio version of the note tree that you saw in lesson 2. All right, so I've created some little exercises that use these notes, very short little increments, so you can understand how they're performed. Like I said, with the what I call sometimes white notes, whole notes and half notes, they are sustained notes, and on a snare drum we can't really sustain a note without it being a drum roll, and that's a little more abstract, especially for you beginners. So I'm going to use the clarinet to show length of a whole note and half notes, and then I have a couple of exercises for each of these in combination. The whole note exercise went like this. 1, 2, here I go. 2, woo, 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 rest, 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 rest. Traditional counting. 1, 2, 3, 4, rest, 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 rest. Rest, 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 rest. For the half note exercise, like this. 1, 2, here I go. 2, woo, 2, woo, rest, rest, 2, woo. The traditional method, 1, 2, here I go. 1, 2, 3, 4, rest, rest, 3, 4. 1, 2, here I go. The combination of half notes and whole notes and rests went like this. Vocalization first. 1, 2, 3, go. 2, woo, rest, rest. 2, woo, 2, woo, rest, rest, 2, woo. Rest, 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 2, woo, woo, woo. And traditional counting, like this. 1, 2, here I go. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, here I go. So there is combinations of half notes, whole notes, and half rests and whole rests. Next we do quarter notes. Sounds like this. Vocalization first. 1, 2, here I go. 2, 2, 2, 2, 2, 2, rest, rest. With traditional counting, 1, 2, here I go. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, here I go. Rest, rest. The combination, half note, quarter notes, exercise, with vocalization, sounds like this. 2, here I go. 2, 2, 2, 2, rest. 2, 2. With counting, sounds like this. 1, 2, here I go. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, rest. 3, 4. 1, 2, here I go. And now I made a 5-measure exercise that combines quarter notes, half notes, whole note, and a couple of quarter rests. All right, here's the next one. Vocalization first. 1, 2, here I go. 2, 2, rest, 2. 2, 2, 2, woo. 2, woo, 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 2, rest. 2, 2, 2, 2, 2, woo. With counting, traditional, 1, 2, here we go. 1, 2, rest. 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, rest. 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. And so that's the only exercise I'm going to use a clarinet on because they had sustained notes in it, what I sometimes call white notes, half notes, whole notes, and later on we'll learn that there's even other kinds of notes that have different lengths. We'll learn that in level 2 of the rhythm lessons. Now we're going to go on to eighth notes. You'll see in the exercises that I've written that I am not using single eighth notes. You will see single eighth notes in future lessons when we start talking about dotted rhythms and syncopations. But for right now, we're just going to use combinations of multiple eighth notes, either 4 or 2 beamed together. Remember, an eighth note, 2 beams, or excuse me, 2 eighth notes beamed is 1 count, because remember you can fit 2 eighth notes into 1 quarter note. If you see 4 eighth notes beamed together, that would be 2 counts in the time signature that we're using right now, which is 4/4. So the first eighth note exercise is this. Vocalized first. 1, 2, here we go. Ta 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 2, ta ta 2, ta ta. Counting. 1, 2, here we go. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1, 2 and 3, 4 and. 1, 2, here I go. The next exercise has quarter notes, eighth notes, and quarter rests in it this time. And vocalized, it sounds like this. 1, 2, here we go. 2, ta ta rest, ta 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 rest, ta ta 2. 1, 2, again and go. 1, 2 and 3, 4 and 1 and 2, 3 and 4. 1, 2, here I go. And then there's a 5-measure exercise that again combines half notes, quarter notes and eighth notes, and some rests as well. Vocalized, this exercise sounds like this. 1, 2, here I go. 2, woo, ta ta 2. Ta ta 2, ta ta 2. 2, rest, ta ta rest. Rest, rest, ta ta 2. 2, ta ta 2, rest. With the counting method, 1, 2, here we go. 1, 2, 3 and 4. 1 and 2, 3 and 4. 1, rest, 3 and rest, 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 3 and 4. 1, 2 and 3, rest. 1, 2, here I go. And that is eighth notes, used in combination with other notes. 16th notes, you can, again, fit 4 16th notes into one count. And the vocalization we use for 16th note is T. There's something a little more to say here. Many elementary music curriculums have a little bit different on the way they learn rhythm. They learn where ta is a quarter note and T is an eighth note. The Ed Sueda method changed that a little bit, so it can be a little bit confusing if you learned that quarter notes were ta and eighth notes were T. But I've used this with my students for a long time, and those of you who are my students, you know this, but those of you who are watching this that aren't necessarily my students, I don't want you to be too confused. But 16th notes are T. It's the shortest, and these notes are the shortest. They go by pretty quickly. We're using the same tempo for all of these exercises, partly so we can line it up with what you're seeing on the screen, which is printed music on the notation program finale. The first exercise for 16th notes is one measure of all 16th notes, and then a measure of quarter notes, 16th notes, eighth notes combined. And so when we're vocalizing this first 16th note exercise, what you're going to see on the screen goes like this. 1, 2, vocalized, go. T T T T T T T T T T T T T T T T 2, T T T T ta ta T T T T. If we're using the counting method, this is how it goes. 1, 2, here we go. 1E and a 2E and a 3E and a 4E and a 1, 2E and a 3 and 4E and a. 1, 2, here I go. Let's do another combination. Quarter notes, eighth notes, 16th notes. 1, 2, vocalizing, go. 2, ta ta ti 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 2. Ta ta ti 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 ta ta 2. When using the counting method, it goes like this. 1, 2, here we go. 1, 2, and 3E and a 4. 1 and 2E and a 3 and 4. 1, 2, ready, go. The next one is a 5 measure combination of, again, quarter notes, eighth notes, 16th notes, and quarter and half rests. Oh, there's a half note in there too. So, vocalized goes like this. 2, rest, T T T T 2. Ta ta T T T T ta ta 2. 2, rest, ta ta 2, rest, rest. Ta ta 2, T T T T 2, rest. Not vocalize. If we do it with the traditional counting method, it would go like this. 1, 2, here we go. 1, 2, 3E and a 4. 1 and 2E and a 3 and 4. 1, 2, rest. 4 and 1, rest, rest. 4 and 1, 2E and a 3, rest. 1, 2, ready, go. So what we've done up to this point is combinations of whole notes, half notes, quarter notes, eighth notes, and blocks of 16th notes. 4 16th notes in one beat. And those combinations can work out well with many, many things that we read when we're reading music and or when we're writing music. But you can actually have even more complex, I refer to as compound rhythms. And the first compound rhythms we come in to learning about are combination of eighth notes and 16th notes. And again, we're keeping it as simple as possible for this first level. But this is for pretty advanced. So if you're a beginner, this will be something you'll want to practice. Practice those exercises prior to this multiple times before you get to these. I'm not gonna do a slower tempo, but I'm gonna take this one a little bit slower in explanation. So the first combo exercise will be an eighth note followed by 2 16th notes. All right. And the first exercise that you see on this video is ta ti ti ta ti ti ta ti ti ta ti ti. All right. The actual exercise looks and sounds like this. Again, doing it with vocalization first. 1, 2, here I go. Ta ti ti 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 ta 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 ti ti 2. If I count that, it goes like this. 1, 2, 3, here we go. 1 and a 2 and a 3 and a 4 and a 1 and a 2 and 3 and a 4. 1, 2, ready, go. The next eighth note, 16th note combination is 2 16th notes followed by an eighth note. Ti-ti-ta, 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 ti-ti-ta. The exercise, when vocalized, sounds like this. 1, 2, here I go. Ti-ti-ta, 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 ta-ta, ti-ti-ta, ti-ti-ta, 2. Using numbers. 1, 2, here we go. 1E and, 2E and, 3E and, 4E and, 1 and, 2E and, 3E and, 4. 1, 2, here we go. Now the hardest one, and it is hard because it also shows us syncopation. So it's our first attempt at first understanding of a rhythmic syncopation, but it is another combination of 16th notes and eighth notes. And this one, it goes 16th note, eighth note, 16th note. Ti-ta, ti. Ti-ta, ti-ti-ta, 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 ti. Okay? I don't like putting those one right after the other in beats. We could see that in music, but it's really kind of hard. If you're playing a wind instrument, and it's hard to tongue that. It's a little easier when you're playing a drum, but with counting, I actually am doing it. You'll see in this exercises with the combination 1 16th note, eighth note, 1 16th note, followed by 2 eighth notes. Sounds like this when vocalized. 1, 2, here we go. Ti-ta, ti-ta, ta, ti-ta, ti-ta, ta, 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 ti-ta, ti-ta, ta, 2. When counting this one, it goes like this. 1, 2, ready, go. 1E, a 2 and 3E, a 4 and 1 and 2E, a 3 and 4. 1, 2, ready, go. Now when we combine them, we can combine all different kinds. And so this last exercise on this particular film is the most difficult of level 1. Yes, rhythms can be way more complex and way more difficult than this, but this gives us something that you can work on and that you can practice with. You could take these and practice them on your knees, or you could practice by taking them a couple of wooden spoons out of your mom's drawer and pounding on the counter. I wouldn't necessarily recommend that. I got my hand smacked a lot when I was a kid. I'm a percussionist, so I pounded on everything as I was learning, and that's how I learned my rhythms. Just keep practicing them. So this final exercise in this lesson, when vocalized, sounds like this. 1, 2, here I go. Ta ta ti ti ta 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 2. 2, rest. Ta ti ti 2. Ta 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 ti ti ta ta 2. Ta ta ti ta ti ta ta 2. ta, ta, ti, 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 2, rest. Using counting method, 1, 2, here we go. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. 1, rest. 3 and a 4. 1 and 2 and a 3 and 4. 1 and 2 a 3 and 4. 1 and 2 and a 3, 4. 1, 2, here I go. Now that we've come to the end of this particular lesson, I want you to practice these. To understand rhythm, you really have to get good at reading them, and the best way to get good at something is to practice them. Like I said before, you do not have to have an instrument to practice these. If you do have an instrument, I would definitely practice them with an instrument, but if you don't have the ability, especially this crazy time we're in right now, practice on your legs and go from there. Pound on the counter. Like I said, just don't get your mom mad at you. So practice all of these. You will need to have a pretty good grasp of these rhythms before you move on to level 2, where we'll add more combinations. And the level 2 lesson will also include what we call dotted notes. If you're still confused about this a little bit, review the lesson, but go back to lesson 2, where we talk about the symbols of music, and look at the note trees. Look earlier in this lesson at the audible note trees, but you can see how many counts each note and rest is worth. Or go back to lesson 1 and to understand rhythm. Again, lesson 1, the elements of music taught us, main thing, rhythm is how music moves through time. I tell my students when they're reading music for the first time, always go for the rhythms first. Pitch will come later. If you're following on my songwriting lessons, we write the rhythms first to words. Let's find the rhythm of the words first, and then we'll add the notes to create the melody. But when we get the rhythms right, the pitches will come. I learned that from the time I was very, very young, and my college band director taught me the same thing. Thank you, Mr. Gookin. Rhythm is how music travels through time. The values of notes for how long or the duration that those notes are held is what you have learned in this lesson. We have kept it fairly simple to whole notes, whole rests, half notes, half rests, quarter notes, quarter rests, eighth notes, eighth rests, 16th notes, and 16th rests. And we've done some exercises that help you understand them in combination. Practice them, have fun, and I hope to see you again in the future on another lesson. Thank you. I hope you've enjoyed this lesson. Please remember to like, share, and subscribe, and come back for another lesson, whether it be music theory, songwriting, or pretty soon, composition. Thanks.